You're listening to Trueheart. Amy and Scott Mallon dive deep with celebrities, mavericks, visionaries, and real-life heroes to find out what sets their souls on fire. Here's Amy and Scott.
We're back, baby.
We're back
for another episode of the Trueheart podcast. We're so happy to be here with all of you.
Yeah, and thanks for joining us. We would love it if you would give us a 5-star review if you're enjoying the show. You can find us wherever podcasts are found and subscribe. You can also join us on YouTube if you want to watch the show and subscribe there.
Yes, and if you're already here watching right now on YouTube, then you are in for a real treat, because not only do you get to hear, but you also get to see today's amazing guest, dun, 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 Blake Lewis.
It's funny that you tried to just almost kind of beatbox there for a second, because Blake is such a great beatboxer.
I literally have no beatboxing abilities.
Yeah, I have zero. So you're going to see one of the best beatboxers in the world.
That's right. And, you know, Blake sang his way and beatboxed his way into the hearts of fans all over the world on his time with American Idol. And he's gone on to have a very successful and also interesting winding road of a musical career. And
lots of highs and lows.
Yeah. You know? And he opens up. He's super authentic about the journey and the lessons that he's learned along the way. So
it's very powerful.
Let's check it out.
And he's a straight shooter. I mean, he just tells it exactly like it was, which is very cool.
We're so excited to welcome our good friend Blake Lewis to the show. The musical story of Blake Lewis begins in the rich Seattle music scene, in which B. Shorty, a moniker earned in his teens, soaked up a musical education in Seattle's a cappella, hip-hop, and rave scenes. He mastered the art of songwriting, beatboxing, and began learning music production in both an a cappella group, Kickshaw, and rap group, Unexpected Arrival. With his rap group, Blake received his first taste of recognition when their hit Take Control dominated Seattle radio. It was his magnetic rise to stardom on season 6 of American Idol that captured international attention. He was a natural standout, introducing America to the art of beatboxing. His debut album, Audio Daydream, landed him in the top 10 of Billboard's Top 100. His follow-up record, the chart-topping Heartbreak on Vinyl, secured Blake 2 #1 Billboard dance singles and solidified his status as a producer. Blake has hit the ground running as a songwriter, performer, beatboxer, and producer. Having produced 4 of his own albums to critical acclaim, Blake has had the pleasure of collaborating with YouTube sensation Postmodern Jukebox, creating multiple videos with millions of views. When he isn't performing or writing, Blake focuses his time on giving master beatboxing clinics and producing artists such as rising star Olivia Cooper-Harris and the enigmatic October Ryan. His current project, The Private Language, is a modern mixture of funk, dance, and electronic music. When asked to describe the sound of The Private Language, one should envision the soundtrack to a perfect, chic, and slightly inebriated desert night. Blake seeks a life of a musical chameleon. I never wanted to stick to one style or stay in one place, he says. By leaning into a unique blend of many genres and sounds, he strives to always make music for those that color outside of the lines. Let's get into it with Blake. Let's jump right in, Blake, because there's so much to chat about with you. You know, you're not just someone that we love on a personal level, because you're an amazing human being, but you're such an incredible music talent, and you've had this amazing journey, which many of your fans got to watch, like we all did, on American Idol, and we'll get to that in a few moments. But let's start where it kind of all began with your origin story. What were the musicians that inspired you growing up?
Oh man, it's countless. But I grew up, you know, as most kids do, listening to what their parents listening. You know, what's on the radio at that time, and what, you know, your family members are maybe, you know, throwing some vinyl down and listening to. But I would say early influences was definitely my mom, who was like more of a bluegrass singer. And, you know, so I grew up with that kind of rooted Appalachian harmonies and stuff like Linda Ronstadt, the Judds, Chet Atkins, that kind of stuff from my mom's side, but also the rock. And then also my dad was like super into like Dire Straits, The Police, um, that side of rock in the 80s. And when I started hearing stuff on the radio, I was like in love with more of the synth wave, the more pop like Duran Duran, U2, um, anything anthemic I really gravitated towards. And then, of course, like Michael Jackson and Prince. And, you know, after that, like, you know, when you start developing who you are in junior high and high school, I got into everything. And I mean everything. I started playing classical piano. I was into like chamber music to a cappella music to hip hop, industrial drum and bass, metal, all that good stuff. So, you know, some favorite albums and people like in high school. I really got into 311, Tonic, Duncan Sheik, Bjork. Um, you know, a lot of female songwriters at the time, but like Janet Jackson and Madonna and just everything, anything that I loved pop music, but I also loved like the really dark, you know, technical, electronica, trip hop. I loved trip hop. Anything that was moody and sexy, anything with a groove. I got into world beat. So it's a long winded answer, but, you know, when people say they're like, oh, I'm into everything, I'm like, I literally have like the weirdest vinyl collection. So yeah.
That's super awesome. And you can actually, it makes sense now that you share that, like, see all of those influences in your music because, you know, in each album that you've put out, there's been different vibes to it. And you've done more of the pop route, you've done soulful records, you've done more of the dance electronica. So I could see those influences in your music. If you could collab with any artist that's out today, who would you want to work with?
I've been really fortunate to collaborate with a lot of amazing artists already, but I would have to say, like, just going back to that, what I said before, like the old school, like Duran Duran, Sting. I would like high school. I loved like when Jill Scott came out. I always wanted to like do like a beatbox loop performance for her. That's like the nice thing of what I can do. I can always lend either a vocal or drums to someone with my mouth. So I am blessed to be part of such amazing hip hop growing up. I got to do so many shows with legends. So, you know, to beatbox for Black Thought of the Roots or Mos Def, you know, that'd be killer. That's up there in the top 5 for sure. And then like current artists, you know, like I love Bruno Mars and there's just so much amazing music out there right now. So yeah.
Well, what's so special about what you do is not only do you have this amazing voice, which really transcends, you know, to any genre. We've heard you, you know, at our events do like the current hits with the retro, like 1920s, 1930s vibe, like you toured with Postmodern Jukebox, to, you know, singing more of the current like R&B soul and then, you know, dance style records. But then you also have this other side of you, which is a totally unique and special gift as a beatboxer. So how did you like discover that you could do that? And then how does one train to make all of these crazy, amazing sounds with your voice and almost like, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but the incredibly talented actor from the Police Academy movies. We've heard you do that, and it's incredible.
Michael Winslow from
Michael Winslow. That's it. He was just
Shout
on
out to
America's Got Talent.
I was a really annoying child. I was, I mean, I have to be ADHD. I've never been diagnosed, but I was crazy. I was always making noise. I was an only child, and I grew up in a neighborhood with no kids until we moved when I was 10. So I was always, you know, just coming up with little ditties and impersonating people. I'm in love with comedy. I've always been, just as much as music. I would go to comedy shows by myself as soon as I became of age, and always wanted to be on SNL. That was like, like a secret dream of mine, just to do one sketch, like on a good sketch show, specifically Living Color when it was out. But Michael Winslow, good call on that. He definitely, as a kid, I was like, whoa, that's dope. But mainly Robin Williams. He was probably my, excuse me, my biggest influence when I saw Mork and Mindy when I was like 4 or 5. And because I just, I think every kid was, and later in life I got to meet him and talk to him a couple times on the phone. And, there's nothing like that moment, it's just like off flashes back to childhood and nostalgia. And, but really it was cartoons. I mean, I loved Warner Brothers over Disney, Hanna-Barbera, Tex Avery, Chuck Jones, Mel Blancs, and just an affinity for animation and comedy, and that really kind of inspired the beatbox subconsciously. It's like the most roundabout way of telling how I became a beatboxer, but it was more the influence of comedy and rhythm than just like specific musicians or hip hop. Because I got into beatboxing before I was into hip hop. I was a skater, and I would always film my friends, and I'd always be going like the most simple generic beat. And I didn't know it was called beatboxing. I was very naive to the hip hop world or the origin of hip hop in general until I was mid high school, which was, 97, 98. Granted, I listened to, amazing hip hop from the early 90s, but I didn't know, I had maybe seen the Fat Boys, and maybe seen Dougie Fresh, but it didn't click back then. You know what I mean? To me, it wasn't like the light bulb switch on until I saw an a cappella group. And it was the same week the first episode of South Park aired, which I think was like August of 97 or 98, something like that. And that first month I saw an a cappella group called Impact, and there was beatbox in there. And I was like, wait, like you can do this? Like people do this, And
it's a job?
It's a job. You get paid to make noise with your mouth. Besides singing, because I'd been to tons of concerts, but never seen beatboxing. So like instantly I just like went down the rabbit hole, and, everything was unlocked. It was like level up. It was like, you've reached the next level. And I told the beatboxer whose name is Matthew Selby, who is like the head producer of all Disneyland properties for like any entertainment you see that's live on their properties. He arranges it and puts it together. So I met him, and I told him a week later, I was like, I'm coming back and I'm going to be a beatboxer. And he's like, all right, kid, slow down, like whatever. I've been doing this my whole life. And I came back a week later, and he was like, holy, like,
Wait,
okay.
Just the progression in 1 week of what you had leveled up and learned?
Yeah, because I had been doing it my whole life, not knowing
Whoa.
it was a thing. Like I wasn't like amazing, but he was like, holy crap. Like, and he just gave me a couple suggestions, and then within a year I was opening for them, which was, crazy.
Wow.
And I kind of like by end of junior year of high school, I already knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know how to attack it or like how to like get in an a cappella group or anything. But a year after that, I went to a jazz competition, and he was doing a class, and I went into it, and he pulled me up, and we jammed. And then he said, hey, I got an audition for you. I'm leaving to California to do this Disney thing. This is 23 years ago. and like I need a replacement for my group, which I already have, but the person that we're taking is now leaving another a cappella group behind, which is called Kickshot. And I went and auditioned for them for 2 days, and I immediately got in it. And right out of high school, I was a full-time musician. We had 32 gigs in 30 days the first month that I was with them, which was insane.
Wow. And that's like the real life pitch perfect. I mean, I think a lot of people who weren't familiar with acapella, really got to know it through those films, and that this is like competitive and people are doing it at the high school and college level. And then obviously taking the show on the road and performing professionally. But that's really then where your roots began, right? And where you learn the ropes.
Yeah, 100%. It was only 6 months out of high school. I was working at Circuit City, but at that same time, I was going to raves. I was like I'm still big into it. Last night I was with Darude till like 4 a.m, raving here in Vegas, performing a song with him that we did in 2008. But I digress. At that same time, I was in a hip hop group called Unexpected Arrival, which I wrote the hooks for, that Twista ended up being on the track. And so I had a #1 in Seattle with Unexpected Arrival and Twista that I wrote the hook for.
That's
that
amazing.
I originally sang the hook for. So it was really crazy. On the weekends, I would be performing a cappella, hip hop, and then hosting raves, like 4,000 people, underground raves with, massive, like Sasha, Jung, Digweed, BT, Ferry Corse and Armin van Buuren and all these, legends in the electronic world. And that's how I kind of progressed in the dance world before I was even on American Idol. And my name was B Shorty, so everyone knew me as B Shorty. They didn't know my real name. That was my stage name. And
well, you may be Shorty, but Maxwell, our son, calls me Shorty, my Shorty princess. So we got 2 Shorties in the podcast.
I think it's so interesting, everything you've been saying, but I think you left out like a really critical piece of what might have been really the reason for your success. You're humble about it, but you worked at Circuit City. And so I think we need to give credit where credit's due. Probably all the lessons that you really learned that made you a success probably came from that job.
I put a really kick-ass car stereo in my car, and I got all the promo albums for free, and all I did was sell audio, like pro audio.
I could see you just rolling in really after like a rave the night before till 4 a.m. and you roll into your Circuit City job. Like, what the fuck?
Oh,
and
yeah. And with a lot of them
selling people audio. It's fantastic.
It would be like 4 of us from the store and then having to like go to like sleep for 2 hours and then go to work, in my Camaro, smoking closed cigarettes, feeling,
oh my God, I'd give anything
cool
to see like some video of you getting out of your Camaro, 2 hours sleep, walking into Circuit City.
You would have dug it and laughed at the same time.
I would love that.
I had a white T-top Camaro with this like booming system that is still my favorite music system to this day. I wish I had that car just one time to roll down the street and listen to the like $3,000 system I had in there at the time.
I love that you kind of were like, raised on the 80s, and your folks obviously really liked music and were really into music. Like my folks, not so much. My dad would listen to like news radio in the car, and I'd be in the back seat, like pounding my head against the window. Like, when does this stop? Listening to traffic and like stock and bond news. So that's how I grew up. So we've tried to give Maxwell like a profound love of the 80s, because I definitely feel like there's a real 80s vibe in some of the stuff you do, because it's like electronic, but you can just tell like that background, that inspiration came from there. And that's one of the reasons I love your music so much, because I've like grew up on the 80s, but I just think it's like the happiest music, and it just is so there's such a range. And I love that you kind of take from that a little bit and use that in your music.
The thing I love about the 80s, thank you for that, is that everything was so eclectic and very artistic and conceptual. Like, you're coming from the 70s, that's very rock based. I mean, there's a couple artists like David Bowie and
Don't forget
Bang
Mama
a
Angie.
Gong, a couple artists that are, definitely artistic and go out there, Elton John, but then you get to the 80s and it's just like people go buck wild. Everyone is pop music, which is amazing. Like, from the Pet Shop Boys to, Cyndi Lauper and Madonna, and, not like, even these one hit wonders are still destroying concerts, and making dough. And things were super melodic. There was no box, really, you know what I mean? And now everything's in a box, and it's really sad. I don't like pop music really today, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that was the last era where I feel like record execs let the artists like be themselves,
Do you think that today, I mean, I think that's fascinating, because I look at it like there's so many different boxes now. Maybe in the 80s, there wasn't, you could be more of yourself, but there wasn't a lot of genres. And today there's so many genres and subgenres.
Mhm.
And you're the kind of artist that like plays in so many of them and mixes them together. So you really are kind of like an 80s throwback because you are so unique. You are your own.
Well, you're like a musical chameleon.
Yeah.
Like, in this amazing way.
So you don't fit in a box. I don't think you do.
It's an interesting. I would say it's interesting for me to try and make something that's like set in a box, and I've tried to do that, and now I'm like, oh, I'll just make things a side project, because I have definitely these sides to me, and usually they're all on one album, and just the way music is consumed and made, it just, people want singles now, and I'm an album person, but I've learned, record labels would love me now in the past, but back then, they couldn't fit me in a box, and that's all they wanted to do. And then they would market me a certain way, and then people would come see me and they'd be like, well, this, we like that song, but then these other songs aren't like that, so it's always, they're always just looking for the demographic, and how can we market to that demographic. So it's been a blessing and a curse, and I feel like sometimes like I was ahead of the curve or far behind it, never meeting up. And now, because of streaming, it's like, it doesn't matter, like, do whatever you want, and which is great. But now no one's making money. So there's that.
Are they not making money because of COVID, or are you talking about the shift away from just kind of
the fact
in general?
that everything went streaming? I hate it. I mean, I'll sound like the old man Moses now, but it's ruined music as an art form, the streaming period. The fact that no one will pay $1 for a song now is it's I won't say luckily I don't have a family to support, because I would love to have a family to support, but the struggle's real now. So,
and it's the same for everybody. Like, do you feel like across the board, this is gonna
for
have
every
like an
independent
impact on music in the? Because I remember we talked to, we actually had a conversation with Moby and Paul Oakenfold, and Paul was saying that it is changing music, and this was like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're going to see a real change in the quality of music that comes out, because young independent artists who are doing really cool things can't break through anymore because of streaming. So I'm just curious where you think we stand. I mean, has it arrived and it's just like you can't make a living?
Oh,
What do you
I
think?
mean, it's been here for the last 5 years, I would say, and it just gets worse when the head of Spotify can pay himself out $6 billion or whatever, and
Yeah.
and is still going to Congress saying he wants lower to pay songwriters a lower percentage or people who actually own the master. And so if I'm an artist back in the day, let's say 10 years ago, a record label would sign you. Maybe they'd give you 50 grand to 150 grand. Obviously, this is like if you're a new artist, they own your master in perpetuity, which means forever. So you're never going to own the rights to the artwork, anything printed, any of that, merchandise that has that imagery on it. And then they would start cutting 360 deals, which means they take a percentage of all your merchandise, all your touring money, all that. Now, now that it's streaming, like you're not going to ever recoup that money. Back then, you'd go out, you'd consume the music, you would buy it, you'd buy whatever, $10 or $9.99 on iTunes, and so then whatever your percentage is of that album goes to repaying back what you owe the record company. So if you owe them $100,000 and you're only making, 8 cents an album.
Wait. Hold on. I got confused. That happens all the time, by the way. But I'm confused because I thought the artist was getting paid 50 to 150. So why would you owe the record company?
Welcome to Music Recoupment.
Trying to understand the math of that. How do you have to recoup when they pay you?
It's not like, it's just like a loan from a bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except
they're not buying. I thought they were kind of buying the master. They're not. They're like giving you a loan for the master and then they own it.
They own it regardless. But for you to make money again, say you're a platinum artist and you sell 1 million copies, hopefully, obviously the record label didn't give you $1 million and you're going to recoup, whatever. Maybe it cost $100,000 to make the album, plus they gave you 100 grand. And then they put in, whatever your contract, like in my first record deal, like you had to pay for half of your own music video. And so my first album was ridiculous. It was Clive Davis, RCA. I did almost my whole entire album with Ryan Tedder, Sam and Sluggo, my friend BT. Everyone got paid whatever, to produce that album. And it was astronomical. I'll never recoup it. I sold like 350,000 copies, which added up to like, I made the record label after recoup, like if they just budgeted out how much it cost to make my album, I probably made them $3 million. I still haven't recouped that album because I only had like 9 cents per copy, and that goes to what they gave me. You know what I mean?
This sounds horrible.
So now, 15 years later, it's on Spotify and it has so many streams. I'm never gonna ever see that money. And that's just the mechanical side of that. If you're an artist and you don't write your songs and you don't get publishing, then you're really screwed. You know what I mean? Because then there's publishing, because then someone could license your song or put it on TV, a television show, commercial. Exactly. So that's where I've been fortunate enough to make money in the music industry. But now everyone is going for that because that's really the only way to make money, as just like if you were a studio artist. Like, you can make money by playing shows, but we haven't really been playing shows for the last 2 years too.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that these recording contracts are really like indentured servitude relationships. And I know from, the majority of my clients when I started out in the business over 2 decades ago were record labels. And so I saw firsthand working with, Grammy Award winning artists to, independent artists, that it was a massive like climb up this this mountain, even for the most successful artists, before they ever saw a penny from their work. Or I saw incredibly talented artist friends of mine get record deals only to be shelved by major labels so that the competition couldn't scoop them up, and their records never saw the light of day. So I think people have this perception of, oh, you get the record deal, congratulations, you're going to be a millionaire tomorrow. And it's just not the case.
It's not the case, especially now. I mean, I just signed another record deal in the beginning of last year. And it's more of a partnership, and it's 50-50. And, they're just like, do whatever you want. We support you. And that's great. And I don't have to recoup a lump sum of money. And I own 50% of the master, which means, no matter what, I'm getting 50%. If they license it, I have licensing deals too. So it's different. It's completely different now. And the record industry, all these labels, they made the mistake of saying yes to all these streaming companies because they're going to get money no matter what, but the artist is not, so they're basically double dipping, which they've been doing for years. The record industry has been shady since the inception, and it's never changed.
It sounds like you guys know way more about this than me, but this just sounds like the mob. Like it sounds like a stacked deck where we have all the power and we're going to give you money, but it's basically almost like a bridge loan, and you're going to pay us back for that. And we're taking ownership of your master.
It's legit hard money lending.
That is crazy business.
Way around it.
It's such a bad deal.
There's no industry like it. It's not like when you make a movie. Like I get streaming services for $9 a month for Netflix and Paramount Plus and whatever plus and whatever, plus. It's just now
everything's
there's
plus, baby.
Yeah, South Park did a great episode on it. It was hilarious.
Well, it's happening in the movie industry now too, with Warner Brothers and HBO Max, where there's like the Matrix, the Village Roadshow production company is suing, I think, Warner Brothers because they're saying the Matrix, when it came out, it only grossed it was under like 40 million. And so they're saying it's all because it was on streaming. Why would anyone go to the theater when I can watch it at home? And so I feel like the movie industry is kind of going through the same thing.
It's not. I completely disagree. The movies are made by picture houses.
I don't know what I'm saying.
I mean, unless it's an independent film, but a movie takes hundreds of people to make, and they're all getting paid. They're all part of a union.
That's true.
They all have benefits. They have health. They have pensions. They have that. I don't have that.
This Saves Lives is a ridiculously delicious food brand that gives back. Every single purchase sends life-saving food to a child in need. Co-founders Kristen Bell, Ryan Devlin, Todd Grinnell, and Ravi Patel launched This Saves Lives with a simple motto: buy a bar, feed a child, we eat together. Now with more than just bars, their products contain premium ingredients and are non-GMO, gluten-free, and kosher dairy. Their unique line of kids products all contain one full serving of fruits and vegetables and are safe for school. To buy their ridiculously delicious snacks, head on over to thisSavesLives.com.
Are you still wiping your butt with all that toilet paper you hoarded last year? How's that going for you? Let me introduce you to a new way to clean after you handle your business. Meet Hello Tushy. Tushy is the modern bidet that easily clips to any toilet and installs in just 10 minutes. Starting at just $99, Tushy sprays a precise stream of clean water and washes away all of that literal crap that toilet paper leaves behind. Upgrade your bathroom experience by going to HelloTushy, TUSHY.com. That's HelloTushy.com. Tushy saves the environment and reduces your carbon butt print. Tushy saves you money on toilet paper, and Tushy saves your butt. Go to Hello Tushy, that's TUSHY.com. Stop wiping, start washing with Tushy.
For over a decade, lifestyle brand Half United has been using fashion to feed people all over the world. To break the cycle of generational poverty,
The community provides gainful employment to local artisans in vulnerable communities who create their handmade and sustainable products. For every Half United product purchased, 7 meals are given to a child in need. Half United has donated over 1 million meals to date. Shop their beautiful jewelry, teas, handbags, and home accessories at halfunited.com and help fight global hunger.
Say ciao to tradition and hello to your new favorite plant-based Italian bistro in Los Angeles, Brothers Meatballs. Brothers Meatballs was founded by brothers and food industry veterans Mauro and Sergio Corbia, who hail from the Isle of Sardinia, Italy. When they joined forces with second-generation Italian chef Mark Middleman, their self-proclaimed brother from another mother, the concept for Brothers Meatballs was born. Mauro was the founder and creator of Mauro's Cafe inside Fred Siegel, a long-standing LA hotspot. Dissatisfied with the amount of plant-based dining options reminiscent of the home-cooked meals their mother once made, the brothers were determined to create a menu so delicious it would appeal to herbivores and omnivores alike. Inspired by the food Mama so lovingly prepared for Sunday suppers, these meatballs are a modern take on a family classic. All menu items are 100% plant-based and made with Mama's secret ingredient, love. Angelinos can order lunch and dinner Wednesday through Sunday at brothersmeatballs.com.
What I learned, which I learned way too late, was don't be afraid to ask for help. And, swallow your pride, because when I was in the machine, like the fame machine, after Idol and with my record label and management and like agents that were like double dipping and not doing what they told me and were taking forever to get back on answers, I didn't know I could invest more in myself, because I had all these yes people in my ear like, whoa, wait on that, blah, 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 blah. My album came out, I didn't even tour it for like a year later. It was like, album should have came out and like a month later I should have been touring it, and then I got dropped and then all these things, and it's like, oh, you can do these things yourself. And that's who I was before, but I got, a little mental after that. I hated fame, I hated LA, I like became a recluse, got depressed and like bitter from the whole experience, this experience that changed my life overnight, that I thought was a facade, and that's a totally different thing that almost doesn't have to do with the music industry. That has to do with, a entertainment culture that, will do a number on you if when you're not looking. And, I was looking at dead in the eye and everyone was just looking back like everything's cool. And it was not cool. So,
well, how did you, Blake, go from, being runner-up on season 6 of American Idol, and the world fell in love with you and your amazing talents as a singer and a beatboxer, and then you get hit with the realities of fame and you're struggling with depression? What was that time in your life like? And how did you make it through to the other side to be in this great place now, creatively and personally fulfilled in your life?
It took time, I would say, and because of my stubbornness. American Idol, the journey through that was amazing until the finale. And then from the finale on, it was not cool with them. Just like putting that in a box, like American Idol's here. And then I got signed to a record label. Like the American Idol journey, I had like the best time than any contestant has ever been on a television show. Like I made so many connections, dearest friends, learned so much, triumphed in a way personally that I was true to myself 100% until they wouldn't let me be, which was the finale. And that it like crushed me, because just to make it short and sweet, I was like one of the first contestants to ever arrange his own music on that show. And then that's what I was doing. The producers were like, they stopped telling me no, I couldn't do it. And they just let me be me after the first couple of weeks I was on the show. They're like, oh, this is him. We're just going to let him be him. which was amazing. And I had to battle. I had many fights with Nigel Lythgoe. And at the end, when it was just Jordan and I that week, which was like 20-hour days, I got 4 hours of sleep, maybe, they wouldn't let me do that. And the song, you know, that I had to sing was written for her. So they basically said I had second place before America knew. And I was like distraught. I couldn't talk to my parents. I didn't know I could like talk to a psychiatrist. I didn't, you know, I was so out of sorts. And then it ended. And then on the stage, like walking off stage, Clive Davis comes up and is like, I'll be seeing you soon. We're signing you. And it's just like, this is weird. Like I dreamt of this moment, but not in this way. Like you're viewed as a television character, not even like the talent that you did on there, you know? And this is when social media wasn't a thing. And I had a MySpace and a Facebook and a YouTube, but American Idol controlled it, and they didn't give it back to me until like a month later. So then now you've just missed this opportunity to talk to fans the entire time now, which everything is social media, like on these television shows, social media, like plug their socials. So they have all these fans now. Like if you're on American Idol now or The Voice, like maybe you have like 1 million people. Back then, if social media, like American Idol, 30 million people watched it a night, you know, that's crazy. Like, so right out the gate from that finale week, like the depression set in. Like I wasn't allowed to be me, and that had never happened in my career. Like I've been at that point in time, I was a professional singer performer for 7 years already. I'd already played 1,000 shows before I hit American Idol stage. So I was getting depressed without knowing it. And then I started making my album. I meet Clive Davis. My management tells me to shut up and like bite my tongue the entire time. He had a piece of chicken like right here for like 30 minutes.
And you wanted to tell him.
And my manager wouldn't even tell him. And I wanted to. They told me to. And everyone walked around eggshells with him. So my first single, which I'm proud of because I wrote the bridge, because Ryan Tedder's a nice producer and he saw the talent within me. So we wrote 9 songs together. He wrote one that is on my album that I didn't write, but Break Another was my first single, and it shouldn't have been a single at all. Like, honestly, Clive Davis was notorious for testing any artist that he had. He would he would grab 3 of your songs from your album and he'd send it to 40 radio stations. Bam, bam, bam. Which one will you play in your market? Which one's the one? And then that's how record labels used to decide. Maybe they still do. I don't know. But he didn't do that. He just threw that song out there, which one of my songs had Lupe Fiasco on it, called I Want You to Know My Name. And I'm beatboxing on it with Lupe, was my favorite MCs at the time. And
he's amazing.
He was number 3 on Billboard at the time, ready to do the music video. And Clive Davis just threw a song out. Clive Davis gets fired. Another guy comes in and drops me immediately after I just made them like $3 million. So that was my music career coming out of American Idol. I was with Jeff Frasco at CAA. He didn't do anything for my career at all. Not one damn thing. Sent me to some lowly agent. And then they finally booked my tour a year later after I dropped. This is January 2008. I buy my house overzealous because I had all these yes people in my ear. Shouldn't have bought a house at all, because 2 months later, the market economy collapsed. Got a business manager. They're like, you need to sell your house immediately. So that didn't happen. I had to short sell. So all the money I made from my record label was gone. I just became super depressed. I started drinking like 2 bottles of wine a night, smoking copious amounts of weed, having panic attacks, and gaining like 30 pounds. And it was just like a 2.5 year depression. And I came to California and stayed at my friend DJ Dan's house for like almost a year. And we go way back in the Seattle scene. He's a house funky house legend, DJ and producer, and he was kind enough to let me stay in his guest room in Eagle Rock for 10 months to like gain focus, and because he's a very calm individual and a lot of solace. He doesn't have a lot of people over, and I just like focused on making another album because that's all I knew what to do. So that birthed Heartbreak on Vinyl, which is my album about love and loss. And that's, I think, how any musician or vocalist or songwriter in general kind of copes with things. Music is catharsis, but I should have gone to therapy at that moment in time, and I didn't go to therapy for like 10 years, like a decade. It was really dumb. I kept having panic attacks on the side of the road. I'd be like pulling over and crying for like a half hour on like the 101. Just, like why? I didn't know I'd never been depressed in my life. I didn't know that, I was like that depressed, like anything would set me off. And the closing point was kind of just, I had like a bunch of bingy nights that were just really bad, just stupid shit. I'm like, I'm too old for this. Like, what am I doing? Like, why did you put yourself in that situation? And so I kind of just cleaned up my act. And soon I finally, after I short sold my house, it took so long. It took like 2 years to short sell it. And then I packed up my bags and I moved to LA. And that kind of was like the game changer. I started working out every day. I started eating healthy. I started, meditating a little, doing some yoga, swimming a lot. I like to swim. And that was the start of my 10-year at California University.
It's so amazing, Blake, how far you've come and all the twists and turns, in your journey. And my heart goes out to you for having the experience of, these folks in the music industry not letting you be your authentic self.
They're shooting themselves in the foot, because if they'd let him continue to be him, would have been even more successful.
Well, yes, they would have made more money together with Blake, but for Blake's, mental health and well-being, we have to, as humans, just be who we are. And if someone is trying to control us and put us in a box, that's just stifling. And I've been where you were, Blake, having those panic attacks literally on the side of the road, crying as well. So I completely empathize. And I'm so glad that you're in this amazing place now. And I'm a big believer that, it's not what happens to us, but how we respond to it that defines our character. And so you've bounced back in such a positive way and have gone on to continue to create beautiful music and art from those experiences, which millions of people around the world enjoy. And one of those new projects, which we love, The Private Language, we're always rocking out to the Everybody Wants to Rule the World cover and to Cali Girl. So tell us about that, because that is, something new and exciting that you're working on. It's got a little bit of mystery and sex appeal to it. So tell us about The Private Language.
Thank you. First of all, thank you. I'm glad we are all happy and healthy and, have grown from our panic attack riddled days. And, it is definitely a journey and it's constant. We're constantly changing and growing. Hopefully, that's what I strive to be a better person every day. So thank you for that. The Private Language. Where do I begin? So I've been playing with this amazing human, KJ Saka, since 2002. He's been my drummer. He's a drummer for Pendulum. He was in Millennium, who's massive right now. and he and I just have always worked great together. I'm the light, he's the dark. I'm the yin, he's the yang. And we have always done things for each other's albums, but never had a project. And when I was making my last album, Wanderlust Unknown, I kind of was trying to put myself in a box because I knew what I wanted for the first time in making an album. I finally had a vision, because usually everything's organic and I just kind of go for it, and then I like make a bunch of songs and then I'm like, okay, these are making the album. This one for Wanderlust, I was like, okay, it's jazz, a little bit hip hop. It's definitely it's the first album I'm completely producing myself. But then I also like to challenge myself when I'm making music and learn new instruments and new programs or whatever. So I bought a bass. I started learning how to play the guitar better, because I never really had lessons. So I started taking some lessons, and I always wanted to kind of make like a surfy project, not necessarily like rockabilly or anything, but just like that surf guitar sound. I loved it growing up. I was a huge fan of, Link Ray and the Beach Boys and just that, I don't know. I just love that sound of the guitar. And I've always been like an acoustic guitar player. So with the Private Language, it started out as just like almost like a 6-song EP of, I didn't know what it was. And then Kevin and he had finally moved to LA. Was begging him for like 10 years. Like, when are you coming to LA? Come on. Like, you're not in London now. Like, let's go. And he finally came, and my neighbor, who was an amazing bass player, I was like, let's make a trio, and let's, I was thinking of like Mute Math, who was one of my favorite bands. And
I love them. I went to their concert.
Yeah,
it was so good.
Yeah, so I was thinking of like Duran Duran, just slap bass, but in a pop, electronic concept. Like, what would it be? It'd be funky and rocky and stuff. And actually, Ryan, the bass player, came up with the Private Language, but he was selling his house. He was moving. He was having a kid. He's like, "It's yours. I can't do this project," which was very sweet of him. Didn't need to do. And so Kevin and I started working, and it stemmed from a beat we made, and then these 6 songs, 6 arrangements. They weren't even songs yet, I had melodies, and it just kind of got birthed. And I wanted to do something like a concept of Empire of the Sun, or, movies like The Fall, or like The Cell with J-Lo, like just something really highly conceptual, which is hard to do when you don't have money to do it. I'm finding out with this project, because everything costs, and especially in the high fashion world. But the blend of sound that Kevin and I bring to each other is unique, and just trying to make music that's not like in a box. And it's tough. It's really tough for me as a songwriter, because I'm such a pop songwriter. Like, I've listened to pop in this format and this, but I've also listened to electronic music, which isn't pop, but now electronic music is so pop. It's incredible. It's crazy how popular EDM, everyone that was listening to electronic dance music before hates the term EDM. But so we're just trying to come up with like this really cool hybrid sound, and every song sounds like us, but every song doesn't sound like each other. You know what I mean? You said you like Cali Girl, which is great. That's like the most pop song that we have. These other ones are very darker, moodier, kind of escapism, a little bit of social messages. We're trying to combine our sound with a lot of environmental and sustainable companies, and work together.
It's awesome.
Work to put awareness out there that you can, do little changes in your life that are going to help, preserve our planet. So that's kind of our mission. And our sound is just fun, happy, kind of stony, little bit of surfy, reverb guitar with maybe a tremolo and then electronic beats. And, you know, it all kind of stemmed from that time in 2019 where I was all over the place because I was producing other artists, making two albums basically. Like we have an album done, but you know, it was funny. We were going to release that cover of Everybody Wants to Rule the World just out there, like January of no, I guess it was March. It was March. We had it slated for like March 14th or something, whatever that Friday was in the middle of March, to be surprise, the Private Language is out. And my name and his name wasn't going to be attached, and it was going to be like even more masks because we wear masks. My voice is a character. It's my voice completely, but it's format shifted, which it takes my tone from la to la. You know, it's the same tone. It's the same note, but I sound like a different human. And that's, you know, first concept was like, we're aliens from a different planet. And I was like, that, you know what I mean? Just trying to come up with, you know, but that doesn't work. And it's just kind of like, I'm like, there's dudes with marshmallows and rats on their head. You know what I mean? Like,
and they've made like hundreds of millions of dollars off of those crazy masks.
Yeah, but that's not sexy to me. Like, there's nothing sexy about a balloon animal. You know, like, and so this one I wanted a little, you know, I don't know, a little more sexy and more accessible, I would say, you know, but also mysterious. And it's really hard to do. Like all this concept was, you know, I was working on it for so long. And then it's like, we live in the world of, you know, someone can type something in within a second. And if anyone's posted anything, there's no way people will know it's Blake Lewis by looking at me and Kevin with these masks on, you know. And I was hoping these masks would be maybe a little more mysterious. And so we decided to say it's our project, you know. At first it was like, no. And I battled with Kevin all the time because he's like, we have to say it's us. There's no way. And he was right. Because I miss that mystery of the 80s. Like I miss the mystery of paper magazines and going to record stores. And, you know, I've been saying it for years and years and years, you know, and this is like who I am. So I'm just kind of owning who I am and, you know, realizing that there's not a lot of mystery left in this world, which is really sad, honestly, when it comes to art. And, you know, as far as music, you know, some people can do it well, I'm sure. But, you know, we definitely struggled because also a pandemic happened in the middle of us trying to release something new. There's always something very nervous and kind of scary when you're releasing new music out into the world in general. And then when you have a new project that doesn't sound like you're not trying to look like you, it was even more nerve-wracking. The first month leading up, luckily our friend, well, actually we reached out to our friend BT and asked if we could do a remix of one of his songs. So I heard the song and I was like, oh, this would be so fun to remix, which doesn't always happen. And then we did it in like 4 days and turned it in, and he loved it. And it ended up being the biggest remix for that song for him, which was great. And then that opened the doorway to us getting signed by Black Hole, which we don't sound like anyone on their label. It's very like progressive house trance, you know, a certain style. But luckily, Arnie, the head of the label, loves what we do and fully supports it. And, you know, we couldn't be happier that we have a home, which is amazing, which is amazing to say. A home that we like to live in. There you go. So,
well, that's super awesome. And we hope everyone checks out your new music with the Private Language. It's super sexy, super vibey. I'm always rocking it in the car. We play it at home. We love it. And
it's awesome.
We're going to wrap up, Blake, with our final question that we ask all of our guests on the Trueheart podcast.
Drum roll.
That is, no, give us a drum roll. Oh my God.
I was going to totally top that and go, wiki, wiki, wiki. But probably.
So glad you didn't.
Yeah, I know. Thank God I didn't do anything. Oh, wait, I did. Oh.
What do you want your legacy to be, Blake?
Oh man, to be? Gosh, that's tough. I mean, I would say my kid that I don't have. So, just that my music made an impact, a positive impact. Yeah, that's it.
I think you've already accomplished it because we have seen it live. You've donated your time and incredible talent to so many of our charity events over the years. And every time you step up to the mic and perform, people are so happy. You give them that experience of joy and just what it means to be like in this groove, in this vibe, and forgetting about your problems and just having fun and letting go. And you're someone that you never phone it in. You always give 110%, and you give like a legit show, and you leave your heart on the stage.
You can see the passion that you have for it. And
it's so true.
Anyone who has not checked out Blake's music, you got to go check it out. It's unbelievable. And there's such a wide range. There's something for everyone, I feel like. But you got to go check it out. It's fantastic.
Yes, you are a beast of talent, Blake Lewis, and also an exceptional human being.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for having me. It's been so wonderful seeing your face.
Hey guys, don't forget you can subscribe wherever podcasts are found. We would love it if you would leave us a 5-star review and tell us what you think of the show. You can also find us on YouTube. You can watch and you can subscribe there as well. So thanks for checking us out.
And thank you to our good friend Blake Lewis for blessing the Trueheart podcast today with his amazing life experiences and the incredible journey that he's been on as a musician and as a beatboxer. We learned so much from Blake, and to everybody out there who aspires to have a career in music, we hope that you picked up some invaluable insights from Blake, and you go forward and pursue those dreams.
He's a raw musical powerhouse.
Yes.
So anyone out there, if you haven't already checked out his music, you gotta go check it out. It's unbelievable. Like, you just sit back and you go, how is that a person making those sounds? How is he doing this? And then his genres are like kind of bleed into each other. It's just so cool. So go check it out right away.
Yeah, and make sure to check out The Private Language, Blake's new music project, on all social media channels and on the streaming platforms, even though he's not the biggest fan. But do stream and get him those downloads. You'll love it. It's great stuff. And keep it locked here, because next week we have another amazing episode of the Trueheart podcast. We'll be talking to Lynn and David Talbert, the producers of the Netflix hit film Jingle Jangle. So you don't want to miss out. It's going to be a great episode.
Wiki. It's a shout out to Blake right there.